Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. This is Joe with the Local Search Association, and I'd like to welcome you all to LSA's webinar series. Today's webinar is titled Verticals Finding Local Success in Social Media, and will be brought to you by our guest presenter, Will Scott from Search Influence. During the webinar, feel free to type any questions you may have in the question box on the screen, and at the conclusion of the presentation, Will can address them. With that, let's get started. Over to you, Will.
Thanks, Joe. And thanks everybody who has chosen to join us today. I am always excited to talk about social media. It's one of those things that I think is, even though we've been in this current iteration of social media for the last few years, I feel like advertisers are still really kind of getting in touch with what they want to be using social media for. And as somebody who grew up in the land of yellow pages, I think that most of the things that we do really need to be about making doors swing and phones ring. So to me, no matter what the medium, the ultimate goal is to connect buyers and sellers. So I'd like to reset everybody's expectations, and let's step back a bit and think about what really is it that we're doing with social media. It's a vehicle for content. We're trying to get our content in front of the people who are ultimately going to buy our stuff, preferably with hooks and calls to action that are going to make them more interested in doing just that. And I'm sure most of y'all can understand this intuitively. Google Sites are the most visited. Yahoo Sites are right behind it. Microsoft Sites, I'm overemphasizing the word sites because then there's Facebook. And it's not Facebook Sites, it's just Facebook. And this is both, this is on the web in terms of Comscore's data for web properties. But the thing to think about is that Facebook has indicated that fully 60% of their traffic is coming from mobile. So I often, when I'm trying to express the value of Facebook, I talk about two different events, right? The first is when my 13-year-old niece tagged me in a photo with my then 68-year-old mother, and I saw the entire range of my understanding of womanhood right there in one photo in which I was tagged, and realized that this was ubiquitous. But then the other is, the way that my wife, who, she's our COO, so she has a real job. She doesn't just play on Facebook all day. The way she interacts with it sort of indicated to me that if she's taking Facebook to bed with her, and that's the point in time when she's getting updates from her friends and seeing pictures and sharing stuff, the device that you take to bed with you is pretty important. So, here it is. It's not just, it's not just across the spectrum of womanhood as I know it. It's in my bed, and I didn't bring it there. So, I think there's a challenge there, but we're not going to talk about that. And this is one of my favorite data points. On Google, according to Comscore in March, the top Google web searches, and you see that big, open-mouthed Pac-Man, the top Google web searches included the word Facebook. And then down there at the bottom, you'll see Facebook login, as well as my personal favorite, Yahoo Mail. So this is as of May, so it's probably now really and truly over 1 billion. But I just want to give you some context. If the global audience of Facebook is over 900 million people, as a country, Facebook would be number 3, right? It would be China, India, Facebook, the United States, and then Indonesia. So it's pretty scary when you think about the fact that there's 3 times as many people on Facebook as there are in the United States. And so, if you come backwards from that and you look at the fact that there's 160 million people in the U.S. on Facebook, keeping in mind that they are over 13 and connected to the internet, as a marketer, 160 people in the U.S., over 13 connected to the internet, that's my definition of pretty much freaking everybody, right? So I think it's really important for us to be looking at this as a channel, if not, in some instances, the channel. this is a great graphic from a friend of mine, Matt Siltala of Avalanche Media, and he was trying to help explain social media in all of its forms, and gave a little pictorial with cats. He's expanded this and is now doing the same thing with dogs. We're actually sponsoring a competition between the cats and the dogs right now, the proceeds of which will go to different charities. So according to the Kelsey Group, and this is data from earlier this year, when merchants think of what is Facebook for, the number one thing that they think it's for is to acquire new business. So does this make sense? The number one thing that Facebook is for is to acquire new business? No. It's, there's still a whole element of it that has to do with branding and behavior and socializing and content delivery. But to think that the number one thing that you're doing there is acquiring new business is a little bit misinformed, in my opinion. And so I want to go back a little bit, and again, this is Kelsey data, but it's Kelsey data from early last year, at which point customer acquisition was not the number one thing that people thought that they were doing on Facebook. So I think that what's happened is, as more and more merchants find themselves on Facebook as part of their personal lives, they, because they got stuff to sell, think that this must be what this medium is there for, because maybe somebody is trying to sell something to them. So when we talk about Facebook and social media in general, and I use Facebook as a proxy for social media, much like I use Google as a proxy for search, because so much of the behavior on Facebook, on social media, is Facebook, and so much of the behavior in search is Google. We tend to look at Facebook as kind of the leading indicator of the way things are going to happen. That's not to suggest that Pinterest and Houzz and Twitter and LinkedIn aren't very important, and that Google Plus doesn't have some value for search rankings, but to date, the place where we get the biggest data set is Facebook, and so it gets a fair amount of our attention. The most shared are media, video leads with photos not far behind, and the thing that we see is that emotion drives interaction, and interaction drives ranking. So not everything is going to get the same kind of response, right? One of my teammates is just a big RuPaul fan. He's a little perverse. It's just kind of his thing. But RuPaul does not get as much interest as as Zappos. Go figure. And then when you think about what kind of images are you going to use, the evoking of emotion is really important. So this was actually one that we did on behalf of an allergist we work with, and we found this picture called Frosty Gets Caught Picking His Nose, and it was seen by 60,000 people, over 1,000 of whom liked it and interacted with it. And on the right, we've got the interior of a cabin in Mississippi, which also had a fair amount of interaction, but not nearly as many reshares as you'll see, because people felt much greater need to reshare Frosty getting caught picking his nose. And even among like groups, not all of the updates are equal. On the right-hand side, you'll notice that update got 10,000 viral views, and a viral view is what happens when somebody reshares your stuff and their friends see it. And the one on the left, only got a few. So yeah, drug rehab, Facebook, probably not the greatest demographic match, but I want to show you the cheat. At the bottom on the right-hand side, you'll see that green bar, which is paid impressions. So we paid 70,000 people to look at this, and that drove an incredible increase in viral, right, because higher likelihood that they were going to interact with it. And as you can see, 300 some odd people liked it, and then that viral drives organic. So even though the ranking algorithms within Facebook are heavily weighted toward interaction, you can do a lot to make that interaction happen. But you got to give the people what they want, right? I mean, what they want is content. They're not there to buy your stuff. They're there to be entertained and interact with their people. And so when talking about content, I always like to use the oatmeal. I don't know how many of you all know the oatmeal, but he started off in SEO actually creating quizzes and widgets that linked back to his dating sites. So he was working content as a marketing mechanism long before people were talking about content marketing or native advertising or any of these things. And so what do? After you go through the quiz and you figure out how many hungry weasels your body could feed, the very next call to action is to share it. And so arguably the oatmeal gets a ridiculous amount of traffic from social sharing just because he puts together this funny stuff. And I'm not saying everybody wants to do this. Certainly this is not perfect for every audience, but for every audience there is appropriate content. I like to call this tying a stake around your neck so the dog will play with you. And you can, you can pay for love on Facebook. This is the PG version of this image. I used to have another one, but I was admonished against using it ever again. But paying for it gets you results too, and if that's what you got to do to start the process of getting love on Facebook, we find it is well worth it. So here's what happened. Way back when the only place where you could buy ads on Facebook were banners on the homepage. And then they moved into the stream where they were, on the right-hand side, like the contextual ads that we're all so familiar with. And then they moved into the actual posting area. So ads could show up within the posts. And it's very interesting because as we've done more and more study around the idea of native advertising, there's a lot of folks who are likening the Facebook ad posts to native ad formats because of the fact that they look so much like organic behavior. And they don't call them ads, they call them suggested posts, right? I wonder how the FTC feels about that from a disclosure perspective. But right around the time that they rolled out these ads in the Facebook feed, it became a lot harder for people to see your content. Only around 10% of the fans of a given page see it ever. So when there's more to see, when there's more eyeballs on your content, you are increasing your relevance within that Facebook ranking algorithm. And Viola, it's a virtuous cycle. You buy a little, you get a little, you buy a little more, you get a little more, and then as more and more people start interacting with you, you are giving Facebook what it wants, which is that interaction, and eventually your actual organic and viral growth continues regardless of whether you pay for it or not. I like to call this next slide, if a tree service falls in the forest and there's no one there to hear, does it really make a sound? So, okay, this is a funny example because I actually did business with this tree service based on Facebook. And I assure you it was not because of this crappy Facebook page. And this is, I keep checking back hoping to find that they've got more than 43 fans, but I think that's everybody who works there and their mother. And they've then done nothing further. So I went to Facebook and I needed a tree trimmed to sell a house. So, one of the conditions of sale was we had this limb chopped off. And so I'm freaking out because we're going to closing the next day and we don't have it done. And so I go to Facebook and, my Facebook friends are sort of half search marketers and half, New Orleans dads with Cub Scouts. And so as it turns out, I got a lot of great responses when I said, who knows a good tree service? And so after a few different, suggestions, a guy weighs in who I know is a landscaper and tells me, call Tree Medics. I've already got 2 other recommendations from other dads in the New Orleans area for Tree Medics, and the landscaper sealed the deal. I then said to them, hey, you need to get on Facebook. And they apparently paid their ad agency and stopped paying them somewhere after November 29th, 2011. So this is one of our clients, and as you can see, this is a little bit older, so he's probably up around 2,500 fans right now. He's a plastic surgeon. Yeah, it's a little more sexy than tree service, but unless you work it, you're not going to get those fans. And so what we've done with him is we've had a pretty consistent content strategy where he is taking, and this is, we do this with all our plastic surgery clients, and in October we try to talk them into doing this program that we've called Likes for Lives. And so what they do is they say, for every new like we get in the month of October, we're going to give $1 to charity. And so here's Jeff Donaldson getting a check, here's a piece of content that we found somewhere else that was interesting to his constituency. And again, the sharing of interesting content and just sticking with it, keeping it going, is what really drives that engagement. And here's the actual Likes for Lives solicitation from last year. And I think he got 800 new likes in that period of time. And here's the trick. You don't just throw up the banner and hope that people see it. You then start buying ads, right? And you start buying ads where the call to action is come like our page. And you don't show them to just anybody. If you're a plastic surgeon in Columbus, Ohio, you show them to women between the ages of 35 and 50 within 20 miles of Columbus, Ohio, right? I know it seems obvious when I say it, but you'd be surprised at how many people just throw ads out there to everybody and think that they're going to sell something. So this is what it looks like in Facebook's Insights. When you do that kind of stuff, yes, lines going up and to the right are the sort of thing we like to see. So how do you do it? There's a bunch of different ad types out there, and I'm going to run through these really quickly because this information is out there in a lot of different places. But just to kind of give you all a sense for what one can do on Facebook, these are marketplace ads, which are very traditional, sort of contextual, in the margin ads that are not necessarily driving engagement. These are what are called sponsored stories. Sponsored stories now can actually come into the feed looking like one of the other ad units called promoted posts, which I'll show you in a second. And so sponsored stories are a great way to take advantage of the content that you're already creating and give it a little bit more life. And you'll notice that each of these says like this page, like this page, like this page. Like ads, and these actually appear in the feed. Kelly Benish, my Vice President of Sales, likes G Squared Interactive, and now I'm getting prompted to like them as well. And then finally, promoted posts. And again, note the language they use. It doesn't say, hey, somebody paid for this and that's why you're looking at it. It says, suggested post. Suggested. Isn't that nice? But look, it looks like editorial content, and it's right there in your face as part of your feed. How can you not like it? How can you not click it? And if there's a strong enough call to action, how are you going to not buy something? So how do we do it? And I'm just going to run through a couple of quick examples. And I'm going to, I hope you all will agree with me that the post on the left is not markedly different than the post on the right. So if that's the case, why did the post on the right get twice as much organic interaction, 6 times as much viral interaction, and got seen by got seen by fully 4 times as many people? Well, it's pretty obvious, right? That little green bar tells the story, because we paid for it. But when we paid for it and we targeted the group that was most important to us, they then shared it. It got seen. Again, notice the share count, which is, I don't know if you can see my mouse here. That's the share count on Got Pink. That's the share count on the pink ribbon, 9,700 versus 500. And that was paid activity activating organic. And so again, looking at that image from the previous example, we paid for it, and we got more organic, tremendously more viral, and it was seen, the post was seen by 20 times as many people. So the moral of the story is that if you don't pay for it, you're not even going to get all of your fans to see it, let alone any new ones. And it really is just as easy as taking candy from a baby to set this up. By the way, everyone needs to go to YouTube after this and watch this video. He actually attached a torque meter to a pair of pinchers and then try to determine, because I just said it, easy as taking easy as taking candy from a baby. It's apparently not that easy to take candy from a baby, and he's got the data from his torque meter to prove it. So I'm going to run through a few quick case studies, and then I'm going to open it up for questions, and hopefully these will look like some of the advertisers that you all work with. With an auto dealer that we work with in central Pennsylvania, we used Facebook to list inventory, to promote events, to host contests and questions, and to point out valuable targeted sales. Now, the great thing is that car people love looking at pictures of cars. We've already determined that Facebook posts with pictures get a lot more interaction. And with this client of ours, we're able to leverage these assets that they have, these pictures of awesome cars, and help them achieve some real ROI goals. They wanted to increase brand awareness so that so that everybody knew that they weren't just about new cars, that they were about used cars. They wanted to generate fans from people who, who had a natural affinity. And one of my teammates who helps us out with Facebook advertising, he came to me and he said, hey, you're the demographic. You're a middle-aged guy. What do guys like you like? And I said, I don't know, beer. That didn't help him. But what we did come to ultimately was that even when looking at the buyer of a Mercedes or the buyer of a BMW, which are some of the brands that we were promoting here, we had to look well beyond the obvious, right? I mean, because the obvious are people who like Mercedes or people who like BMW. But the not so obvious is, men between the ages of 40 and 60 who like Breitling or who like Hermes, I mean, so really, brands that indicate disposable income, because they're not things that you're going to just sort of like because you like them, especially if you fit the other demographic criteria. So we built out a content strategy, we set up the Facebook page, and then we ran ads to activate that organic behavior we were talking about. So what happens next? Of course, fans grow, they start interacting, and then, we see a growth in the metrics that we really care about. So more leads from the internet. Facebook following grows from a couple hundred to thousands, and we sold that car. So for those of you who don't know, and I didn't know until somebody told me, that was a 2012 BMW Alpina. Now, I remember the Alpina when it was a little two-door roadster sort of car, but apparently the new Alpina is a $130,000, Mac Daddy 7 Series. But you're a car dealer. I sold a $130,000 car from Facebook. How long do we have to run that program before you go ROI negative? A long, long time. And so it is not unrealistic to think that you can actually sell stuff from Facebook. So it's not really like this, right? What you do with those 1,000 followers is you figure out the hooks to drive them into your business, to get them interacting with you further, and then you sell them something. So you got to be creative. This is a great example, right? This is an optometrist. I think this is a classic sort of directional media customer. What are we doing with them? We're creating interesting and informative posts that reach their target audience, and then we're promoting them. So again, does it work? 7,600 people saw this post. Cute girl in glasses, right? You're saying, hey, that's a little kind of peripherally related to the optometry thing, but 7,300 people saw this. It got 27 comments and was shared, and these guys are seeing a true return on investment from Facebook. So we like to look at the ratio in content planning this way. The majority of what you're doing want to be about engagement, about actually giving the people what they want. You then want to have a significant chunk of your content around educational information. And yes, some of that educational information can be self-referential, though it's not great to have it all be self-referential. And then finally, around 20% wants to be product and publicity. Too much of your product and you will not see a return. You won't see those users actually clicking through, and many of them may unlike you, which is a bad signal. This is a plastic surgeon we work with in Atlanta. They were on Facebook. They were posting every once in a while, and so we had been pushing them. We'd been saying, hey, you guys really need to get more serious about this. And it was kind of early days, and they said, yeah. And so we went up to visit them one time, and we said, look, here's the deal. We're taking this away from you because you really suck at it, and we got to take this more seriously. So they were having an open house, which is something they do with some frequency, and these are ridiculous. They have the Porsche dealer bring a bunch of cars. They have jewelry stores, high-end liquor purveyors bring product. And so we said, let's prove the point here. Let's demonstrate that we can really get signups because of Facebook. And so what we wound up doing is we looked for something that we could give away, something that was aligned with their demographic, and we decided that the thing that we could give away is Victoria's Secret gift cards. So we got their fans to enter and tell us why they deserved a Victoria's Secret gift card. Yes, this may have been a little bit outside of the rules, but that's what happened. We went from only I think a couple hundred fans to almost 2,000 in the span of 3 months. And do you think that Victoria's Secret is demographically aligned with a plastic surgery practice who does a lot of breast and body work? I think so. And the beauty of Facebook ads is that we were able to make sure that the only people who saw those ads were women between the ages of 25 and 40 and within 15 miles of metro Atlanta. Bam. And as we went back through and we looked at the actual comments that were coming in, these were customers. We were hitting the demographic just right, and so we felt really comfortable in tracking this all the way through, and this is where a lot of people lose it. And I think a lot of traditional, and I say traditional, a lot of PR style social media marketers come to this and they don't have an understanding of what it really means to deliver an ROI. And so it's been important for us all along that we have tools that allow us to see where did every lead come from. And so by knowing where every lead and every sign up came from, we're able to discern how much money was made from this effort. Did it have an ROI? And, clearly, 135 grand on several thousand spend, even for a plastic surgeon, looks like a pretty good ROI. So that's Terri. She's our contact over there. She's awesome, and she's always good for a testimonial. They do the vast majority of their business from the internet. The vast majority. So, when Google does silly things like rolling out their Penguin update, and we lose a lot of Google traffic, sure is a good thing that we got social to back it up. So how do we know we're worthy? Because Terri tells us so. So another group that we work with, this is actually local to us in New Orleans, this is the Audubon Nature Institute. They run the zoo and the aquarium and the insectarium and a whole bunch of animal husbandry stuff, and they were very involved in the recent BP oil spill with degreasing a bunch of pelicans, and other critters too, but the pelicans were the ones that got the most play. They are a tourist and local attraction. Our work around Facebook is to support their programs, to sell tickets, to build fans, to show promotions. And though I don't have a slide on this, I'm going to tell you guys a story. We've been working with them for the last 3 years during their big fundraiser, which is this thing called Zoo to Do. And Zoo to Do happens, it unfortunately coincides with the second weekend in Jazz Fest, which pretty much assures that nobody under 30 who doesn't work for us is there. But one of the programs associated with Zoo to Do is that the local Lexus dealer donates a car, and they then raffle it off. This year, 60% of the tickets for the car raffle were sold before they even opened the doors, and that was 100% from social advertising. So when you look again at the ability to promote those posts, which is cooler, Zoo to Do or a shark? Me, I think it's probably the shark. But our Zoo to Do post got seen almost 15,000 times, and our shark post got seen 3,100 times because, of course, we paid for it. So when we were looking at what we needed to do for the Audubon Institute, we focused on New Orleans area folks who were demographically targeted because, you know, people who are coming in from out of town may not be the best draw for the Audubon Institute. It's much more, as you might imagine, kid-focused, and people who are coming into New Orleans are seldom there for the kid-friendly activities. And we went and we met with them originally around this, and they were at something like 18,000 fans, and they wanted to get to 30,000. And they said, do you think we can get there by the end of the year? Or by I think it was March, you know, so we were meeting with them in November, and I said, we can get there by January 1st. And we didn't quite make it, but we got really close, and now they have over 100,000 fans. They're competitive. The Audubon Institute in New Orleans is competitive with Georgia, with the Bronx Zoo, with Monterey Bay. I mean, so these are their kind of aspirational targets, and through social media, we're getting them there. So the question, what's in it for me, right? This is what we always hear from the advertisers with whom we work, with the customers that we serve. All of this stuff is all great until they see the rubber meet the road. And like I said, we spend a lot of time helping them understand what the value proposition is. You know, this is why reporting is so big for us, is because whether it's a direct customer or one of our partners advertisers, if they don't see a tangible return on their investment, they are not going to renew. So who is it not going to work for? Divorce and criminal attorneys? Probably not, right? I mean, maybe I want to show DUI ads to somebody who's liked a bunch of alcohol brands. We do have a drug treatment facility for whom we do some Facebook posting, but I'm not going to suggest that they're getting a lot of really tangible ROI from that. Interestingly, what we're focusing on is we're focusing on families of addicts who need help, and funeral homes probably not going to work. So the value of Facebook is it's the social site that people are using most often to find local business information. I know this is crazy, right? But more than 20% of people indicate that they've done a search for a local business on Facebook. I mean, they're not going to find what they want. I mean, if they went looking for a tree service, look at my experience. The only reason that I found one is because I asked people, and I happen to have demographic alignment with the needs of you know, a tree service among my friends on Facebook. When you look at the cost of Facebook advertising versus Google advertising, we are still seeing that it's less than half as much on a cost per lead basis. Now, everybody says you get a ton of impressions, you don't get a ton of clicks, you know, it's not a, you know, the cost per click isn't there. And I'm here to tell you, cost per click is the least important metric. The only thing that matters is cost per lead, right? How cheaply can I drive a lead into one of those businesses that I'm working with? The as exciting as Twitter and Pinterest and Houzz and all of these other sites are, they do not even come close to Facebook in terms of the number of eyeballs on a given day. There are stats which show that some people are checking in and out of Facebook as much as 20 times a day. And the great news is that Facebook is not as heavily advertised as Google. It's not as it's not as easy or approachable. They're doing a much better job of helping people understand how to get started, but it's still a 1/20th of the number of advertisers as Google. So for you guys, I mean, how do you sell social? You know your advertisers best, and they really trust your recommendations. I think more than just about anything that we produce, aside from search engine optimization, social really requires a consultative approach, and I think that one of the hooks that we're seeing as most effective is that it gives the advertiser a chance to really feel like the expert. So when we look at what are the advertisers looking for, we put together this thing that we call a social presence package, the intent of which is really like getting them out there so that at a minimum they can check that box and they can say, okay, I got that Facebook thing taken care of, I got that Twitter thing taken care of, I can move on with my life. And then beyond that, we see a really big attraction among advertisers for Facebook advertising. And I think it's really important not to think of Facebook advertising as display advertising. I think it's really important to have a very different KPI than just a number of impressions. Sorry, KPI, key performance indicator, for anybody who's not heard that phrase. And then beyond that, we are seeing some verticals where some of the other social networks are valuable for brands and visual and visual kind of creative. Pinterest works really nicely. For anything home services related, Houzz is really nice. If you haven't seen Houzz, you should check it out. I like to call it house porn because it's all of these just like ridiculous kitchens and baths and top 10 architectural sites of the Chicago landscape, that kind of thing. And from there, so starting with bare presence, moving into sort of a higher level of intent around advertising and social posting, and then finally moving into branding and full-on management. And as we look at the things that we do, we have white label dashboards, we have co-brandable marketing materials. We actually go out and train when it's needed because we recognize that this is not, as much as we realize it's not rocket science, to some folks it still is, and we don't mind, putting our team on the street to help out. And then all of our fulfillment's done in-house. So we've got a team of 50 in New Orleans who do this stuff. We're not shipping it off somewhere else. It's particularly when it comes to social and social messaging, it's really critical that we feel like we've got control over it. And just a real quick about us, you'll notice a bunch of people in that picture are wearing shorts. That's because we're in New Orleans. I was wearing shorts this morning while riding on a plane from New Orleans to Miami, and we take training seriously. We've got 12 AdWords certified folks, another 3 who are analytics certified, and I still like to point out that we were the only company in New Orleans on the Inc. 500 list in 2011. And we get around, and if you have a chance, go check out our blog. One of the benefits of having so many smart people hanging around is that when I found that it was too much for me to personally maintain the blog, I looked around and I said, hey, you guys, you know some stuff, right? And so there is some really great content being published on our blog almost daily, usually at least a couple, 3 times a week. That's me. I'm Will Scott. I'm done in just under 40 minutes. I try to be efficient with your time and make sure that we've got enough room for questions and answers. What are the social products our resellers are finding the best success with? I think it's actually that presence product. That's where it's really easy for advertisers to toe the water, and it's not hard for the advertiser or the seller to understand. So it's it's a great kind of entry-level product, and that's where we're seeing a lot of traction so far. how can how can we offer these products ourselves? I think that particularly, and it depends on what kind of creative you have in house. The the key is to have a good content strategy and to pair it with strong creative. So if you have content creators, both visual and text-based, and you can build out a good platform and calendar, then you can definitely produce some of these yourselves. We've got in addition to our 50 folks in house, we've got another 70 contractors who do a lot of content creation for us. So so for us, it's pretty easy to scale around this stuff. But we've seen some publishers and media companies do a pretty good job of building this out. And then, how long does it take to set up these campaigns? It can be pretty quick, particularly if it's in a vertical where you've got some experience. We actually just recently did a deal with a company called Hootsuite that has they've got a platform for social posting where what we're really doing is all we're doing is the content piece of it, and that we have accounts that we got up and running where we actually delivered posts to the advertiser, and this was, I think, the medium for these posts was Facebook, but we delivered posts within I think 10 days. So within 10 days, they had their first 5 posts, and then we have another 10 coming at the beginning of the next month. Do we offer an unbundled solution, e.g., pieces of the Facebook management package? Yeah, totally. In instances where it makes sense, we will do just branding. We'll do just advertising. It's a lot easier for us to feel good about it if we can control the conversion, because then we can be confident that we're delivering value. Do we mark up the cost of Facebook ads? Yes. All of our online advertising programs, whether whether Google or Facebook or display, we have a management fee associated with them, because there really is there's a cost of creative and there's a cost of management and lead attribution and that kind of stuff. So so yeah, we have. And this is just our thing. We have a sliding scale. We have a sliding scale that ranges from probably 15-20% at the high end, down into the lower dollar ranges of 30-40%, depending on how much of a rev share our partners want. When we're doing it direct, it's more of a it slides from 10% at the very high end down to 30% at the lowest. So the actual question is, what's the second best complement to Facebook ads for SMBs? Is it a website or what? I'm going to say that a website is more important than Facebook ads. I think that this is, and back to that slide from the Kelsey group, where 50-something% of SMBs polled said that said that Facebook was about customer acquisition. Well, except for the couple $1,000 worth of stock, I don't own Facebook. Facebook could go away tomorrow, and I think it is incumbent on us as those who are trying to see to the care and welfare of small businesses to assure that they have a website, because that has to be home based. So when we collect those leads on Facebook, we've got to send them somewhere, and our preference would be the website, because then it's the advertiser's data, it's their relationship with the customer, and they're not giving up such a big piece of their relationship with their customer to a third-party platform, which 980 million people strong, you just don't know. AOL and MySpace were pretty tough in their day too. I appreciate Joe and the LSA putting these things together, and I could find worse ways to spend an afternoon than talking about online marketing. It really is it's a passion of mine, and I think that is something that flows through to our team, and so it's not hard to talk me into doing a presentation about whatever in regard to online marketing. So with that, Joe, I'm going to hand it back to you because I don't see any more questions coming in, and thanks again.
Thanks a lot, Will, for conducting today's webinar. It was really great, and we appreciate all the info. I'd also like to thank everyone else for attending today. If you have any additional questions, feel free to contact us at LSA, and we can connect you with today's presenter. We have some more exciting webinars planned for this summer, so stay tuned for those. Also, don't forget about our Social plus Mobile Show Me the Money conference coming up in Chicago. We're working with Burrell Associates and Local Media Association on the agenda, and it's coming together nicely. Check out our website or social media pages for more info on that. With that, thanks everyone for joining us, and have a great day.